Welcome to another episode of the Private Property Farming Show. We're still here in the West Rand in a place called Tarleton at Onewa Farm, speaking to Eric to learn about markets. You know, in the past few months, the agri-industry saw skyrocketing prices around peppers, particularly yellow peppers as well as red peppers, for a myriad of reasons. So I'm curious to find out from Eric whether the past few months have been challenging or profitable for Onewa Farms. Thank you so much for joining us, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Eric, you know that markets is such a contested issue in agri, especially for people who want to farm season after season. Prices fluctuate, etc. So how do you manage your markets, and how did you find your markets for your products?
I'll tell you something. One of the biggest mistakes I have learned previously was the assumption that we take our reject to the fresh produce market, and it's actually the other way around. So I started sending my produce to fresh produce market. It's been about 5 years, but one of the key lessons about the market was if you produce in the good quality with the right package and you are consistent, you will never have issues about the market. And that's actually where we are. So we're sending the bulk of our produce to the fresh produce market, and then that's where we find the bulk. The other retail stores are buying our produce, but via the fresh produce market.
So you've decided that the fresh produce market would be your first client.
That's
and
right.
Retail clients will get your produce directly at the fresh produce market.
That's correct.
So what happens in instances where the fresh produce markets aren't open?
I'll tell you one of the key things is I learned this from my mentors is keep on producing. Do not focus on whether the market are fluctuating or not. Be consistent and keep on producing. And that's why Onewa Farms, one of the key reasons why Onewa Farms is still growing day in and day out is we are consistent. We're focusing on a particular produce, a particular variety, and we do that in bigger volumes.
Yeah.
So I have not even given up.
So the markets are known for supply and demand,
Yes.
price taker versus price maker.
That's correct.
This is the area or places where price is determined.
That's correct.
You know, as they always say. So when price is determined and market prices fluctuate, how do you ensure that when the prices are low, your farm still remains operational?
I'll tell you. So we've got a 12 months operation, 12 months in a year where we're operating. Out of the 12 months, 3 months in a year, we don't know which 3 months, you're definitely going to have prices dropping. So we're not going to be focusing on the 3 months in a year. We're just going to be focusing on producing the quality, be consistent, and the prices will sort of cover itself up. Going back, I mean, 2020 and 2021 were probably the most difficult years in a farming industry because of COVID. We didn't stop farming. We still continued. Prices took a deep dive, but we still maintain, we still focus, and that's the reason why we're still up and running.
Yeah, and in the past few months, you know, the paper prices were quite high.
That's correct.
You got a lot of buyers complaining
Yes.
about, you know, how high the prices
Yep.
are, as well as consumers
Yep.
talking about how expensive fresh produce has become.
Yep.
But you were the producer during that time.
That's correct.
Were you producing and selling peppers at that time? And if you were, what advice would you give to farmers who are making a profit, especially when prices are favorable to them?
I'll tell you. So the pepper industry, it's special on its own.
Yeah.
Winter, it's normally where the prices are hitting the roof. So any period between May and September, that's where we normally get the higher prices. So what we used to do previously is we used to plant in January to make sure that we're still in production in winter, but we've turned the things the other way around. So we are now in production from September to make sure that we're still taking advantage of winter. We were in production the last season, we were in production the last winter, and yes, the prices were great. As a producer, we were happy. Unfortunately for the consumers, they did feel the bite of the prices, but as a producer, we were quite happy about it.
Yeah, and what relationship would you give to a farmer when they sell their produce through the fresh produce market? What relationship would you advise to the farmer to have with their buyer or their market agent to make a successful sale at the end of the day?
I'll tell you the one thing that I did. So years back, I got one of the best agents at Joburg Fresh Produce Market, and I stick to that guy. So when I start planting, I would normally inform you and I say, I'm going to plant 1, 2, and 3. What are your projections in terms of the volumes? Would the red pepper be selling more than the yellow? Because we're doing 80% of the red pepper, 10% of the yellow, and then the 10% of the green peppers. So we've built a relationship with our agent to a point where if the prices are not doing well, we know that the agent has got our interest at heart. He will actually try and fetch the higher prices for us. Forming and building relationship with the agent is very key. As much as we're building relationship with friends, build a relationship with your market agent.
And how would you know that you're doing well as a farmer based on what the agent is selling? Is it just maybe you've seen your bank balance increase, or the agent gives you advice to say, this is how you promote your product? So how do you know the agent is right for you?
I'll tell you one of the key things that I always do is I normally go and spend probably one of the nights at Joburg Fresh Produce Market, and I walk the floor. So even when the agent says your competitors of some of the bigger guys are packaging it this way, they're doing more of this, I can actually see, I walk the floor with my agent. So we've got a very tight relationship right now, to a point where I know when he's giving me advice on my produce, it's actually legit. One of the things that he normally say is, he would normally invite me over and say, can we meet face to face? Can we take a walk around the market together? And by doing so, you get to see the operation of the fresh produce market.
So you've been able to establish a household brand name.
That's correct.
Onewa Farms
That's
over
correct.
the years of trading on the market floor. So now, what do you say to those customers, whether I'm a processing company, I'm an export company, I'm a retailer, that want a piece of Onewa's products?
I'll tell you something. So there's one very key important thing that we do at Onewa Farms. Quality is key. So we started focusing on the quality, and it was mainly to try and bring in more customers, people to also fall in love with what we're currently producing. But one of the things I've recently learned was to also start focusing on my shelf life, because shelf life is key, whether for the retail store, for other customers, and that's currently what Onewa Farms is trying to focus on. Volumes are now our next step. So we've already covered our quality, we've covered our consistency, now we're trying to push more volumes. Mainly because people are talking a lot about Onewa Farms, the brand itself, and we want to live up to what we always promise our customers, quality and consistency. But the packaging is also going to be the best one.
Yeah, in a very highly competitive fresh produce industry,
That's correct.
How does one ensure quality?
I'll tell you what we've sticked. So, and Buddy, we get a couple of calls from different farms. People would normally say, I want to start a pepper production. And when you tell them how much we currently paying for a seedling, 1,000 seedling, and people get shocked. And we've learned through the journey of Onewa Farms to say, those higher, very expensive seedlings or seeds are the ones that are actually going to give us the good quality. And we've sticked with certain companies that are currently producing, or they sell the best seeds in the world. And that's where we currently are. We partnered with the right seed companies to make sure that we still produce in the good quality.
Wow. So where to next in terms of your markets?
I'll tell you what ideally what Onewa Farms had always wanted to do is we wanna become well-known pepper producer at some stage. We want to become the Ruganis of the peppers. We want to become the ZZ2s of the peppers and the chili itself. I mean, we've just tapped into the chili market right now, and we want to go big on the chili market. But we want to touch on the export market. There's a huge opportunity right there. We just don't have enough volumes now to go bigger on that market. But ideally, in about a year to 2 years from now, we want to see Onewa Farms on the shelves of some of the overseas companies.
Yeah. Thank you, Eric. This was quite insightful.
Pleasure.
Quality, consistency, shelf life. This is what gives Onewa Farms the competitive advantage in the fresh produce industry. So if you're struggling with markets, I would suggest, based on what Eric said, focus on your quality, have a good relationship with your buyer or fresh produce agent, and also know your market. I think that is key for any farmer out there. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Join us on the next one, where we get to learn about Eric's exports market.